Hi there! Are your walks with your dogs becoming a challenge? Do you struggle to manage control while your dog pulls ahead? Well, don't worry. In today's videos, I've got 7 tips to help you turn those walks from chaos to calm. So let's get started. Hey guys, my name is Shivani Kuthe and I'm a dog behaviorist here at the Pack.in. Now, leash pulling is something that we hear pet parents talk about all the time. But before we get into actually correcting the dog, I want you to first pause and think about whether we are doing everything right. Are you able to communicate with your dog properly? Do you know why they are pulling? Do you know how to handle the leash right? So in today's video, I have 7 tips for you. 7 small changes that will completely change the way your dog walks with you. So let's get started. Now, tip number 1 is to prepare well. Now, whether you're using a harness or a collar, ensure that it is fitting well for your dog. Also, make sure that the leash that you're using is actually comfortable on your hands. You also want to ensure that you're either carrying a sling bag or a fanny pack to carry your phones, keys, poop bags, treats, etc. etc. This ensures that your hands are free to handle the leash if your dog pulls. Wearing shoes that have good grip is also helpful if your dog is a puller. Tip number 2 is to practice a little bit of impulse control on your walks. If your dog is pulling you out of the door as soon as you open it, half of your battle is already lost. At every threshold that you cross, whether it's the doorway, whether it's your elevator or the front door or lobby of your building, pause and ask your dog to focus on you. You can use simple commands like a sit, a down or even a paw for this. But be patient and wait for them to give you that attention before you move ahead. Tip number 3 is to let them sniff. A lot of times I see leash pulling start because the pet parents want to rush home and rush through the walk while the dog wants to just pause and sniff. Besides toileting, the main agenda of your walk should be to allow your dog to sniff. So be patient, keep the leash loose and allow your dog to sniff. Tip number 4 is to learn how to handle the leash. One common mistake I see a lot of pet parents make is that they hold the leash a little too tight or close to their body. This is of course to make sure that the dog is not pulling or jumping towards someone, but this also teaches the dog to constantly be in a state of tension, right? So we want to ensure that we are handling the leash a little calmly. You can hold it with both hands for better control, but ensure that the leash is a little loose. Also remember, if your dog gets overexcited and jumpy when they're meeting other people or dogs, and you let them interact with every person they come across on walks, that is the expectation that you're setting for them. Which means every single time you're taking them out, they have the expectation that they are going to interact with every other person they meet. Now, tip number 5 is to work on certain essential commands. Whether you're taking your dogs out for a walk or to a dog park or a public place, there are certain commands that you want your dog to respond to no matter what the distraction in the environment is. So some of these commands are a leave it, where they are able to walk away from a distraction, a recall where they can come back to you when you call them, as well as a focus command such as the watch me. It is very important to teach all of these commands to your dogs at home first before you start using them outdoors. So please remember to practice that. Tip number 6 is to make your walks a little bit fun. Now, if your dog is pulling, whether it is towards other dogs, other people, other strangers, all this tells me is that they are not as interested in the person that's walking with them. So carry some treats, work on certain commands, play with your dog, or even suddenly change routes to keep your dog a little bit more focused and interested in you. And the last tip is to teach our dogs to settle outside. Now let me ask you, does your dog associate the putting on the leash or stepping outside the house with a very excited state of mind? Because honestly, a lot of dogs do. And while that is super, we also want to teach them that sometimes stepping out would also mean settling down. And honestly, this is not a very easy thing for our dogs to do. So it is our responsibility to teach them how to do this by practicing it with them every day outside. All you have to do is at the end of your walk, find a quiet park bench and go and sit there and let your dog see the world go by without actually engaging with it. That's it guys, these were my 7 tips for you, and with enough practice they should make a little bit of a difference to the way you walk with your dogs. But remember, if your dog is a constant puller, if they are slightly nervous or anxious or even reactive, leash pulling is only one of the symptoms of a much bigger problem. In which case, it is very important that you speak to your dog trainer or behaviorist nearest you. That's it for today's video, you guys. I really hope these tips help you out on your daily walks. If there is any other dog behavior or training related topic that you would want to learn a little bit more about, please let us know in the comments below and we'll discuss it in the next video. See you soon. Happy parenting.